Hello, everybody. Welcome back to How Come. I am obsessed with you. You all did such nice rating and reviews. I'm subscribing. Actually, I have no idea who's doing subscribing. But if you would do it, take a minute for me, please. This episode is going to be very, very musical. I have comedians Dylan Adler and Kelly Bachman on today, and it is going to be such a fantastic time. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Sweet Vibes for supporting How Come. Get 15% off all toys when you use promo code HowCome at sweetvibes.toys. Thanks to Dipsea for supporting How Come. Dipsea is an audio app full of short, sexy stories and guided sessions designed to turn you on and help you get in touch with yourself. Get a 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/howcome. Finally, big shout out today to Helix Sleep. Take their 2-minute sleep quiz and they'll match you to a mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Find your perfect mattress at helixsleep.com/howcome. Okay, so massive trigger warning on this episode. We are talking sexual assault, violence, rape, and we are doing it with two comedians who actually joke about the subject matter because they are survivors themselves. Dylan Adler is one of the most musically, comedically talented people I've ever met. He's going to be a star. You're going to love him. He is a comedian, actor, and musician based in NYC. He's performed musical comedy at the New York Comedy Festival and was featured in the New York Times for his show Rape Victims Are Horny Too with Kelly Bachman. He is also the co-composer of the musical Good Morning New York that played at NYMF and also off-Broadway at the Players Theater in 2020. Dylan is joined by Kelly Bachman, who is an icon in her own right. Kelly blew up on Twitter for a story. We will talk about it during. She is a New York-based comedian, writer, director, producer, and musician whose show Rape Jokes by Survivors has been featured at New York Comedy Festival. Kelly has also written and produced a live stream sketch variety web series, Sofa Kingdom. Get it? And her debut short film, Boobs, premiered at LA Shorts International Film Festival. Kelly and Dylan have an Instagram live show every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, so go check that out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all your nice ratings and reviews. I'm going to read some next week because this episode is actually very, very long because obviously it's a really important and serious subject matter. So if you want to see the whole thing, go to patreon.com/howcome. Welcome to all the new patrons. We are so happy to have you. And also this week is the week that I'm going to be putting out Jessica's journey, her first episode, because she is due to do her first assignment. And if you don't remember Jessica's journey, Jessica is 34 years old. She's never had an orgasm. She listens to this podcast, and I was like, okay, I'm going to coach you, and we're going to put your journey on Patreon. And so that's what we're doing. And then hopefully when she comes, we'll make it all live. When? Knock on wood. Okay. I'm excited for this episode. You guys are going to love it. Again, trigger warning, take a break if you need to, or just don't listen to it. But the beginning starts out really easy and we get more intense as we go along. So if you're not able to handle it, yeah, I would maybe stop. But if you are, it's a really great conversation with two really great comics, and I am so happy to have them. And yeah, okay, so wait, one of our reviews was that they love the podcast, but that the theme song fucking sucks. So instead of starting with our theme song today, I'm going to play Dylan and Kelly's new song from their new music video, and that's going to be our theme song for today. When we're not even going to do a How Come outro, it's just going to be this song, because that's how seriously I take your reviews. All right, let's go. Woo!
Tell me I'm not and don't fucking touch me. Tell me I'm not and don't fucking touch me. I'm scared and horny. Tell me I'm not and why don't you love me? Tell me I'm not and don't fucking touch me. Tell me I'm not and don't fucking touch me. I'm scared and horny. Tell me I'm not and why don't you love me?
Don't look at us like that.
But also, do, bitch.
Welcome, Dylan Adler and Kelly Bachman.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi, Remy. Happy to be here.
Hello, icons. How are you?
Wow.
She's of course referring to our song "Tell Me I'm Hot, but Don't Fucking
Yeah,
Touch
a
Me."
new pop single and music video out on Instagram. I like literally the catchiest song ever.
From our show, Rape
Victims
Victims
Are
Are
Horny
Horny Too.
Yeah, it's basically a song about being a rape victim who's like, you know, with all the what comes with that, but also being horny as hell and needing validation.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, and we realize there's like a connotation of us saying victim instead of survivor, but you know, we're kidding.
You guys are comedians and you have done a lot of things together, making comedy out of a really terrible thing that happened to you. Rape Victims Are Horny Too, Rape Jokes by Survivors.
Yeah, Rape Jokes by Survivors is a show that I put together firstly in, I guess, April of 2018, which in 2017, Me Too was going super viral and a lot of comedians were commenting on it. And I kept waiting for like a comedian champion of mine to say something really, to like really go after one of these famous comedians who has been accused of sexually assaulting women for years. And instead I kept hearing these kind of watered down defenses or like I didn't know anything or kind of like I'm waiting to hear the facts, or worse. The worst was when I would tune into like a comedy special hoping that they were gonna like roast these guys and it would be like victim blaming jokes and I would hear that at open mics. So this was before I was even doing stand-up. I just was like producing for comedians and writing with comedians. And I was like, I'm just going to find all the comedians who tell these jokes and produce this show filled with like survivors who are telling jokes.
But from the
about
other
it,
angle.
and they're going to be
because usually it was comics,
And-
like a rape joke when I think about it is always about the victim and like contributes to rape
Right.
culture. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But once I was searching for it overnight, I found like 50 women who were ready to tell these jokes who were survivors. And I literally gathered a bunch of them at an open mic and we kind of took over the mic. And I was like, you know, let's just do these jokes and kind of prepare for this show that way. And that was I actually ended up doing like my second open mic ever that night because the women were not really I realized it was a weird thing for me to ask them to do.
That's like pretty,
So I was
it's like a
like,
pretty big ask.
This is like
Yeah.
strange. So when people weren't really getting up and doing it, I just like did it to try to, as like an icebreaker to try to get them to do it. Like, and so it was weird that my first joke I did on stage really was like a rape joke for this reason.
Like, so
Totally.
you put that initial mic together and you were saying it's mostly women. Dylan, how has it been for you as like a male queer survivor?
Yeah, so I was starting to do jokes about kind of my experience being a rape survivor. And that's how I met Kelly. And I was kind of, when I first was doing jokes about, I didn't really hear like any like queer men or like men really talk about their experience with it. So when I first was starting out, I was like, oh fuck, I'm afraid like, you know, people aren't gonna believe me, or they think like this obviously didn't happen to this dude. He's just like making it he's doing it as a joke, and then like they'll hate me because I'm making a joke about that. But I was able to do Kelly's show Rape Jokes by Survivors, and I was the only guy in the lineup, and I feel like before the show I got like this terrible imposter syndrome where I'm like, oh fuck, like no one is gonna believe this happened to me, and it's like I'm like I don't
Yeah.
deserve to be here, nothing happened to you,
Yeah.
like all like the the kind of like voices I heard in my head when like right after like I
Like, does it even
experienced the trauma.
count?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's like you're co-opting this thing that actually happens to women, like blah blah blah, and like all this
Right.
shit that was in my head like immediately after I was raped and stuff that felt raw. But like when I did the show, I felt like so validated, and it didn't feel like, you know, it felt like people did kind of identify with the material, and that was like a life-changing experience. Not all shows are like that. Like I swear, like I
Yeah.
have shows where it's like I'm doing
Yeah.
regular material, then I like do have a rape joke, and then the audience like is like, oh my god, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah.
But like that experience was like life. It was like so affirming.
Yeah, and that version of Rape Jokes by Survivors was on the heels of Kelly had just had this massive Twitter fame because of a run-in with none other than Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you tell that story.
Oh, sure. So last October, really, like exactly a
Mhm.
year ago, really, a year and like a week ago, I like did stand up for the first time in a while, and Harvey Weinstein was invited to the
Mhm.
show as industry
For a show of young
like-
stand-ups.
It was like an industry
Yeah.
showcase, and he was invited as like industry and had his own table.
Yeah.
And I just was like calling out the venue and the producers for inviting him.
And nobody had before. Like nobody mentioned it.
And there were people who went up before me and didn't say anything, and then even people were booing me and telling me to shut up, and even the host of the show was booing me.
Oh
And,
my god.
and then I just like kind of said I'm a rape victim or
Mhm.
survivor. Or
Survivor.
whatever. And then I just like said fuck you, and someone filmed it and put it on Instagram and Twitter, and then it went super
Yeah.
viral.
Yeah. And our friend Amber Rollo was there too with you, who's a comedian and also a
Yes.
survivor.
Right.
And yeah, that's how I saw it go viral, and I was shocked because this was like in the thick of the Me Too movement. Like it wasn't just a small thing anymore. Like it was like Alyssa Milano was a part of it, and like you would think that Harvey Weinstein wouldn't be allowed to be able to come to an event like
Right.
that with young performers when that's what he was being accused of, was preying on young performers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, it was they were, I mean, it was beyond that. There were people that were clearly hoping he would like finance their project, or were still like sucking up to him like it was the old days of
Holy
Harvey
shit.
Weinstein, like hanging out in a bar in the Lower East Side, and like people coming
Mhm.
around like hoping to get in a minute with him. Like it's very
Mhm.
surreal. It was also overwhelming that I didn't really even, it was hard to even really think about how it all felt, like even in the weeks following.
Like so
just-
much attention.
Yeah, but I just remember really trying to focus on like what I want to
Mhm.
do. Like I was like, okay, I have this show that I love, and I'm just gonna produce that show. Like New York Comedy Festival said I could do a show. I'll produce this, and I'll just write a new set for that. And I remember like being really focused on just writing this
Mhm.
new set and trying to ignore everything else. And that's when I really met you, because
Yeah.
you let me do like a spot on your brunch show.
I love Remy's brunch show.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
well.
it wasn't the place
No.
for my new set.
No.
But then even worse, Remy saw like the worst night of me trying that out, which was
Mm.
like when a comic was kind of mean
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. That incident and a
yeah.
lot of things afterward, like seeing how comics responded to you talking about it, changed my perspective on a lot of comics. Because like obviously when you're doing jokes about material that is so sensitive, like it might not go right the first time, and you might like become emotional about it.
Totally.
Right.
And like there were some comics that were like, ugh, how could you like get so emotional like on stage or something like that? And I was like, oh honey, like we can't be friends anymore.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's what I was encountering a lot. And it's kind of validating to hear that they were actually saying that, because I would just get like energy from people, and I would kind of assume that's how they felt. And then I would beat myself up about it, because I'd be like, oh, this is just your trauma. Like, you think these people don't like you and they don't even care. Like, you think these people think you're an opportunist, or think that you're like emotional and shouldn't be doing comedy, and I would feel that, and then I would kind of like, I would really be mean to myself about it, and then I would just avoid comedy spaces, because I felt like, oh, I'm too insecure, imagining that people feel a certain way about me. And then I heard it from a friend, and that's when I realized like I wasn't wrong. Like a friend told me I shouldn't talk about this on stage and said some really hurtful things. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, nope, I'm not imagining this. This sucks. It's impossible not to take it personally because
it's your story.
It's,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
my life, and it's my, it's, you know, my experience of being literally like backed into a corner. Like I didn't ask to be in the news about this. And once I was, it was such a part of my life, like every day. I mean, in a way it still is, that it felt strange not to talk about it on stage. Like if this is what is on my mind all day long, 24/7. And like, so dating is hard. Yeah. Like it just feels like I need to talk about what's going on in my life to be a genuine performer. Like for me to have done that show that Dylan's talking about, like 2 days after the show that we just talked about, where I was literally crying and like someone was mean and was like, "Why are you crying, Kelly, about your set?" And I was like,
that's the person's voice.
That's not why I'm crying. But I'm crying because you were mean to me. But I just it was really kind of, that night sucked, but then I was grateful for it 2 nights later, because when you go into this room where everyone's like cheering for you and laugh, it feels like, oh, they're just gonna laugh at everything I say because this room just loves us just for being survivors. But then I was like, no, actually what we're doing is really kind of punk rock. Like it doesn't, not every room is loving this.
Totally.
Like this is something that is still, you know, controversial just to even talk about.
Yeah, as opposed to other rooms, like when I do, like I'll do like and then I'll do a rape joke like about my experience, and then I feel like the audience being like, oh shit. But in this room, it's like the audience full of survivors, it's like they really got the stuff about trauma, and like it was just like a totally affirming kind of thing.
And the sexual assault or the rape isn't the, like, I mean, at least this is what I think is like what's going through a lot of people's heads in a room where they're not primed is like, ooh, can I laugh at this? Or is like
totally
yeah. I remember on the first show that I produced, a lot of the comics were telling me that they were feeling like they had to rewrite their jokes for this show because it was the first time they had done them in a room of people like signing up for it. So usually the first punchline of the joke was the surprise, like, and then he raped me, and then everyone's like, what? And you know, it's hard to imagine without me remembering one of their jokes how it's a joke, but I promise it was. But when they would come into this room full of like mostly survivors, you know, probably, I watched the transition go from the element of surprise to this funny thing on this show of these survivors. Each of them were doing this thing where they would like brag about it and then one up each other. Like the first comic was like not to be a bitch, but I have been raped. And then the next one was like, well, I've been raped
okay,
three times.
I want every show to be like this,
like,
honey. I want every show.
And it was like, but I watched them all like in that joke that would normally be the surprise, like I'm gonna talk about this. It was replaced with like, cheer for me. And that was really fun, and like the energy of that backstage of everyone kind of like joking with each other and like trying to like one up each other and share like what felt like war stories and feeling like a sisterhood.
How long did it take you guys like to be able to joke about it? Not even publicly, like.
I was thinking about this yesterday actually, and I think the first time for me it was in college, and I my first time I was raped, I think I was like 17 in high school, and then a few years later I found myself in college, and I would be in these sort of creepy situations a lot where I'd go to frat parties, and I went to a frat party where me and my friend were like suspecting that the punch was spiked with like roofies or something. Like it was like already a weird situation. And like a frat guy came over to us, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so triggered by just the appearance of this guy and just the way and I just started singing you remind me of a rape that I want to. When I look into your eyes, you rape me too.
Oh no.
And that's why I just can't ever make eye contact with anyone again. And I just got in this habit of like making up little parody songs when I feel nervous.
Little ditties.
And I literally, like, I would do it with my friends, and then I remembered last fall, I remember this documentary crew was like following me around, and they were gonna have me do that brand new set. They were gonna have me perform it at the Improv in LA, and like in the main room, and it was like that set was fresh, and I was like, this is I'm so freaked out, like I just shouldn't be filmed. I just started spinning around singing like, I'm every victim, we've all been raped.
Yes, rape, honey.
But then I had Dylan on a podcast, and the podcast, I always like, the idea was that I would write songs with the guest. And I was like, what if we wrote a song about rape trauma? Because you have your songs, and I'm musical as well. And I sent him lyrics of what would become Tell Me I'm Hot.
Yeah.
And then we ended up making a whole show out of that because I got so excited. I was like, what if we also parodied this and this and this? And yeah, that was kind of the whole.
So fun. Dylan, when was the first time you could joke about it?
So for me, comedy-wise, I was mostly doing like musical impressions and stuff, and like a lot of
the best, the most fun.
Lin-Manuel, yes, like a lot of like Lin-Manuel, yes, like Lin-Manuel Miranda impressions.
In the middle, we could build a snowman.
In the middle, we could build a snowman. Yes,
my favorite.
And thank you. And I was enjoying doing that, but I thought like, I was really still like struggling with like rape trauma stuff and stuff. So I thought like, what would it be like if I like were to actually like write material about like kind of that? And I was so scared to try it at a mic, but the first joke that I tried was, and it's based off of truth. I was like, the joke was, so this morning I was kind of feeling really on edge and kind of shaky, and this is the reason why. This morning I took a poop so big it was triggering. So that's where I'm at right now. Such a big poop. And like, that was like kind of the beginning, and then I started writing more stuff about trauma. And
yeah, I saw Dylan do that joke at an open mic, and I was like, we made like eye contact. It was like a meet cute, and then I got up and did. Because
I feel like most people wouldn't understand that joke. Like it would just go way over their head.
Yeah, it sometimes does.
I was like cackling.
Like they're like, yeah, it was a bad poop. Like, it was hard.
You're like, they don't make the connection. Some people do, but they're like, what?
I literally couldn't even tell you if anyone else in the room was laughing, but I was like laughing so hard, and I felt like there was like a spotlight on Dylan, a spotlight on me.
It's like that.
And then
Zoom on Instagram.
Always be
exactly.
My baby.
And then I got up and I did my I have a joke about group therapy for rape survivors,
and I was dying at the group therapy.
I did that, and then we both were just like, I like your joke.
Yeah.
You're like, hey,
that was hard.
Are you really? Yeah, are you?
Yeah.
Do you want to do something crazy and just like write a show together?
Write some songs.
Let's be fun. Run in the rain and write some songs.
No, but literally, so I was listening to Tell Me I'm Hot, but Don't Fucking Touch Me. And I also, you guys shared it last week, right? It's like the 29th, now it was the 17th.
Yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of comics shared it and commented on it that I didn't think were allies.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, cute.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a lot of comedians that seemed to really support it. Like, it's a mixed bag. Like, I think I lost followers by posting that.
Sure.
Then, it's one of those things that it's always nice when comedians really appreciate it. And I don't know. I get kind of a mixed. What I notice with a lot of comics that I don't expect to support me is that they don't support me. But until they actually see what I am doing.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
They don't support.
Mhm.
A lot of times, I feel like I don't get the vibe that they support the idea of it. And
Right.
then, like, this
They're like,
theme
unless
show-
she's talented.
They're
Yeah,
like,
unless it's
they're
funny.
like, a theme show about trauma sounds opportunistic, but then
Mhm.
they like see something and they're like, wait, I see, like,
I mean,
like
isn't
that.
any comedy about trauma like and like yourself
Yes.
opportunistic, like, and like using yourself, like this whole podcast is using like my inability to come, you know, like, and so I feel that imposter syndrome sometimes, obviously, like around comics who like you think they're having the conversation of like, she's only here because she talks about her vagina.
Right. Yeah,
You know?
it's hard. It's I definitely felt a lot of imposter syndrome of just like a lot of people telling me that I'm brave or like
Mhm.
kind of like thousands of people being like, Kelly is so like great, awesome, she's and I haven't really had that experience in my personal life, so I just kept feeling like, oh, once these people really know me, like once they really see who I am, they're not going to believe me anymore, they're not going to support me anymore. And so I would have that voice in the back of my head that's like, oh, when they hear what else I have to say, they're going to take it back, you know, they're going to say like, actually, you're another one of those like opportunistic lying like victims we've all like, you know, like I was like waiting for them to flip and give me that shame.
Yeah.
And so whenever I would go into a room like the one that you saw me in, I would be like, oh, this is right, this is really how people feel about me, like,
Right.
you know, who are these 90,000 people on the internet, like they don't really know, they just like that one video. And so I would be kind of pleasantly surprised whenever people would actually say like, good job. Like,
Yeah.
with what you. So now I'm like a little more confident, I hope, but yeah, it's hard a little bit
Totally.
to take on like an identity that you're not fully Grace.
Oh my God, she's Grace?
Yeah.
My cat is Grace.
Oh.
Same.
No, Dylan. No.
Okay, sorry.
I've actually been doing something on Grace, my cat's Instagram, when I'm in Portland with her, which I'm going back very soon. Very exciting. But yeah, I've been going live on her Instagram and just like letting people hang out with her if like they don't have a pet, because like not everybody has a pet, and it's nice to just like look at a nice round soft and like hear him purr and stuff. And actually, do you know what that reminds me of? Is Dipsy. Not for pets, but like for people, if you want to have like a sexy experience but you don't have anybody around, like Dipsy is really good for that. If you haven't heard about Dipsy, it's amazing. It's an audio app full of short, sexy stories and guided sessions that are designed to turn you on and help you get in touch with yourself. So we obviously talk about physical health, mental health, sexual health all the time on this podcast, and this is like the going to the gym of the mind, and the body, because like when you will orgasm eventually through Listen to Dipsy, that will feel good and it will be scientifically good for you. And yeah, they're good little, like, it's a good reminder to like check in with yourself. If like you're not somebody who does that often, and maybe get in touch with your body. And yeah, they've got wellness sessions that can help you unlock new confidence or heighten intimacy. If you do have a partner, it can do that with the partner as well. Like there are ones for couples. They add new stories every week, so you never get bored. The stories themselves are relatable. They're not just like super, like you could see yourself in them, and they're immersive, so you feel like you're right there. And there's something for everyone. It's awesome. Especially if you're like more of an audio person than visual, which I am. You'll really like it. I love Dipsy. It's really good. I can just turn on one of those stories and like listen. I think you guys are really going to like it. And for our listeners, Dipsy is offering a 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/howcome. Isn't that exciting? So like, you don't even have to put any money down. You can just go for 30 days free trial. Dipsea, DIPSEA, stories.com/howcome. Dipsystories.com/howcome. You guys are going to be obsessed. Something I know you're obsessed with. So people have been sending in reviews, which is amazing. Everybody's been sending in their first time coming stories, which thank you for sending them to me. Always send them to me, but also go on the website, howcomepodcast.com, and put them in the first time coming form. And then you can see yourself on the map. You can make it anonymous or like your full name, depending on like what you want to do. I would put my full name. I put the fucking date and everything. And yeah, somebody sent me their first time story, but they also were like, okay, so you recommended a toy I really, really like, and you recommended my favorite thing in my life, which is her Helix Sleep mattress. I am so happy that people get these mattresses because I feel like Charlotte awarded me the knowledge of a Helix Sleep mattress, and now I award it to you guys. I'm so obsessed with my Helix. My whole family is obsessed with my Helix. My brother and his wife are moving into Nanny's apartment, and I have to move my boxes out this week. It's going to be so annoying. But I was like, well, what do you want to do with the Helix mattress? And they were like, well, we have our own mattress, but like, you need to keep that. And I'm like, no, I know. And they're like, okay, well, like, we're going to convince Dad to like keep it in his place because like, I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. Anyway, Helix mattresses, they are so great. Like, I'm generally okay with like not having a set apartment right now that is my own, but I just would like to know that my Helix is going to have a home and that we are going to be reunited soon. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if I live in New York. I don't care if I live in Oregon. I don't care really like where I end up. I'm just like, where is my mattress? Like, how do I get that with me? But yeah, before I get one, you guys are probably sleeping on the worst mattresses ever. I can just like visualize you on some disgusting, springy something that is not good enough for you, and you deserve better than that. So give yourself an upgrade. There is nobody on the planet like you, so why would you buy a generic, disgusting mattress built for everybody else? Helix Sleep has a quiz that takes just 2 minutes to complete, and it matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. So if you like a mattress that's really soft or firm, or you sleep on your side or your back or your stomach, or you sleep really hot, with Helix there's a specific mattress for each and everybody's unique taste. Helix also actually designed their mattress with sex in mind. All their mattresses are hybrids, meaning that they have both foam and springs in them, unlike many other companies. Having springs in your mattress rather than just foam, by the way, keeps you from sinking in too much, and it gives you that extra little perfect level of bounce. Their high quality springs are incredibly quiet, and won't sag, even during your non-sleeping activities. I took the quiz and I was matched with the Helix Sleep Midnight, and I initially wanted something that was like really squishy, but then I put in the quiz like how I felt in the morning with a squishy mattress, and the quiz was like, no, sound like it's for you. And then they matched me with that mattress, and it's literally the best sleep of my life. I miss it. I love it. So if you are in a house right now that's like, you're going to be there for a while, go to helixsleep.com/howcome, take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they'll match you to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. Oh, also, it only comes in a small box, like a cardboard box, and then it like not inflates, but like rolls out and like rises. It's amazing to watch. They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but you will. And right now, Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and up to 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/howcome. That is Helix, HELIX, sleep.com/howcome for up to $200 off. Okay, let's get back to the episode. Anybody who's like, oh, like this is so opportunistic, and like she's just using, or he's just using being a survivor to like get likes or get famous or whatever, like name one person who's ever started in being a survivor and has gotten famous. Like, you can name so many people who have had assault allegations against them, but like, name the victims. Like, I don't think you can.
Yeah,
Right.
that's so true.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to use their experience to some degree, or just whatever you're given. Like, I realized this week how, like, I might have been a little traumatized by the way some comedians acted last fall, because I found myself feeling like extremely protective of like Sarah Cooper this week, who just like released a special and she got famous overnight, and she got really famous overnight. And a lot of people, I feel like, are posting their opinions about it, but I felt like it was coming with this energy of like,
fuck her.
it was less about like, so a lot of people don't like people's jokes or don't think something is funny, but to like, it felt like it felt like it came from a place of like, she shouldn't be doing this, and why does she deserve this? And I found myself like feeling like a lot more like she is a friend of mine. And so of course I feel protective of her, but like, I just felt like this, I was like, why am I so angry about this? Like, all day I was like kind of asking myself that, like, what is this?
That's kind of how I felt when New York Comedy Festival asked you to do such a long set. And like, that's why I gave you that time, because I had never seen somebody blow up so quickly and then be asked to do such a long set on something so traumatic. And I was like, holy shit, she needs stage time. Like, this is crazy. And also, there's no way you're going to say no to that situation, because you are an artist. And you are talking about your trauma, and you already do this, and you're not going to not do it. And especially having a bigger platform where you're giving other survivors an opportunity to tell their jokes, and then maybe even have a bigger conversation where it's like taking back jokes. Like, rape jokes used to really fucking bother me because they were about doing rapes and that being okay. And now like, there's a different version of rape joke that is like, oh, it's so digestible because you're on the side of the person telling it.
Right.
The person telling it has gone through it, and they're trying to shed a light on some form of it that they experience.
I guess what the feeling I was thinking about yesterday is like, I wanted to feel overall like I have this thick skin about myself, and that I'm like, those people, you know, they don't really know what they're talking about. And then whenever I feel myself getting protective of someone else, I realize that's really how I feel about myself. Like, I really am that angry about myself and like how people react, because it's just like, it's not fair. Because of course, you know, if someone is, especially if it's about something you actually want to talk about, like, you're gonna take the opportunity. If someone offers you a special before you feel like
you're ready for
it, you're still gonna, it's the dream.
No one would turn that, no human would ever turn that down, you know? And something like that, when I was doing like jokes before, like, you know, by myself, doing my own trauma jokes, and then doing them together with Kelly, it was like, it was so nice to be able to like, because we would like perform before our show, we would like do, sometimes it would go well, which was great, but sometimes it would be like a mixed reaction, which is fair, but it's like so nice to be able to have someone else with you, like sharing like that, talking about our shared experiences. And
not like, being like, oh, you're crazy afterwards. Just being like, yeah, it's a normal bomb. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person.
Exactly. Material, like, that's what I had to think of it. It's like, it's material. And sometimes it does well and sometimes it doesn't. And you have to keep working at it to like, you know, and also like, you know, when we were sharing the video, you know, there was obviously people who were like, you know, fuck this, I can't believe. But like, to be able to like, go through that together and still be like, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah,
totally.
Like there was one night literally where Dylan and I bombed so hard together, like it was a mix of like
homophobia and also just like
there was a lot. It was a lot of different elements that were bad, and we were like at a weed party.
Wait, after I went up.
Set.
after I went up, the host had to come up and be like, some people be gay. Some people are gay.
No.
And that's okay. And I'm like, you
God.
tell him. Tell him, Dave.
It was like, yeah, and he was basically like, I know you don't believe this about them, but what they did was funny. And actually
Like
what they're doing
objectively.
is really cool. And they have a big show this
amazing.
Saturday. I'm like, I'm going to go.
And you
Yeah.
guys should go. You'll
No
love
one
it
there
this
bought
time.
a ticket.
Yeah.
But it was bad, and we were like, and if I had been through that alone, I would have just been like crying all night about it. But whenever we did that together,
Yeah.
we would like, we were laughing at each other, and
Mhm.
like, it's like, oh, Dylan thinks I'm funny, whatever.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
then-
it was hilarious.
And then we'd
actually.
like, we would just kind of laugh about it afterward, and having that, because it's like, I don't usually cry when I bomb is the thing. Like, I know why I'm crying about this. It's like,
Yeah.
it's my wound. It's it's the trauma is real. I really have PTSD. So
And
when
most
I'm choosing
people
to talk
do.
about it, like choosing to talk about it, I'm proud of
Survivors.
that, and it's healing for me. But when it doesn't go well, it hurts more than a regular bomb. Like, it just does.
Yeah, we have some stats. There's actually 94% of women who are raped experience symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder during the 2 weeks following. 30% report symptoms 9 months after. 70% of rape or sexual assault victims experience moderate to severe distress, a larger percentage than for any other violent crime, which, like, I think makes so much sense because, especially with this crime, you are taking the most fun, exciting part of life and making it extremely scary for someone
Right.
now and for their future.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many things, like the healing journey, I think for most people really isn't linear. And that's what that's what I try to kind of bring up, because I think a lot of people have this view of me that because I'm talking about this on stage now and laughing, that I've come out the other end.
Totally.
And that now
not
I'm just
true.
like,
yeah.
cool to talk about this, and like cool to hear about everyone's trauma, and like it's not going to re-traumatize me. And
Mhm.
really, like, every day is different. Like, some days I still am like in a ball, like just journaling all day, crying. Other days I feel great. Some days I'm ready to go like on a random date and like hook up with somebody that I don't
Mhm.
know. Other days that sounds terrifying. Like,
Mhm.
sometimes I just want to go like make out with somebody. Sometimes I could be
Yeah.
triggered by a boyfriend I've been dating for like a year and a half. Like, it's
Mhm.
like, it's not linear. And so I don't want people to feel like they're not brave just because, you know, they don't feel as healed as someone else, or like feel like, oh, she's brave, she's on stage. Because that's how I used to feel about the other comics who
Mhm.
were like, when I wasn't on stage and I was like booking the show, I was like, wow, they're really the brave ones. They have it
Mhm.
together, not like me. And that, like,
But
now
everybody
I
heals
see
in
it,
their
like-
own ways and in their own time and stuff. And so like
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
can't judge somebody else's journey.
Yeah, just like you're
exactly.
brave just for being here, you know,
Just
like
existing with the trauma. You don't have to go on, or you
you don't
deal
have
with
to
it
talk
with your
about
own
it.
way.
You don't owe
Yeah.
anyone your story, and
Yeah.
that's why Dylan and I always end our show by saying, "We believe you, and it's not your fault," because so many people just haven't even heard that.
Yeah.
You know, and that minimal like validation for some people is all they need to start healing. Like, that's really what it took for me. I didn't hear that until I was like 23 years old.
Mhm.
And at that point, I had already been through 3 different traumatic experiences, and like not one time someone was really
Mhm.
there, you know. And I found that support on a blog. Like, I went on this Tumblr
Oh,
page.
wow.
I like made a Tumblr account just to post on this page that was
Mhm.
called "I Believe You and It's Not Your Fault," and I posted, and I waited for weeks like for a response. And then they answered like, "Yes, that was rape. We believe you."
Mhm.
And I like totally, it was like the first time I had exhaled
Mhm.
in years. Like, I just cried and cried, and I finally felt like I could go to therapy, because I was like, okay, I deserve to go to therapy. Like,
Aw.
it was like I
Yes,
finally
yes.
felt like I could like try to heal from this, because
Yeah.
because it was for
Trauma.
years I was just feeling like I'm I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I'm
That's
over
exactly.
dramatic.
I'm like, I thought I'm sensitive. I'm like, how could,
Ugh.
like, if someone else went through this, they would never feel it as much as I do. They're like, you're crazy or nothing happened to you. And for me,
Right.
it was a year later when my therapist confirmed. It's like, oh, okay, so I am justified in everything I feel.
Right. And when you're feeling so closed, like the way I was feeling, I was like a walking red flag. Like, and I was not really dealing with my trauma. And it made me like, kind of, I feel like a predator magnet, because I was this traumatized person who would put up all the signs that would make any nice person be like, she should not be touched right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it would be like the one predator would be like, you know what? You look like someone I want to take home.
Totally.
And so I found myself in this cycle that wasn't my fault. It was just like, I needed to be healing and be validated and be treated with patience and kindness and love. And once I found that, like, which I found it actually through my like first adult boyfriend.
When you were
was-
also an adult.
Yeah, when I was like, I was an adult as well.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yay.
So I was an adult as well, and I was in this New York friend group of like creatives and so-called like progressive people from Portland.
Hell yeah.
I remember it was like all these things. It was like, are they progressive? We don't know, but then
Oh no.
there was a rapist in that friend group who hurt me, obviously, and people were really not on my side. But then there was one guy in the friend group who I really liked, and we started dating. And once started dating, I told him what was going on, and he was the person who was really the first person, especially first Van, which made a big difference for me, just from my experience, who was like, let's get out of this friend group.
That's nice.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't deserve this. And then I
Yeah.
trusted him so much that I was able to have my first like really sexually fulfilling relationship and feel like love. And other than comedy, I think that was the most healing thing for me. Like to have, and he actually also introduced me to comedy. He's a comedian.
Nice.
I want a
Super
boyfriend.
He's just a super nice guy.
He's nice.
Yeah, there's nice guys out there.
It's really nice to be able to feel like safe and loved with someone. And I love that Dylan's like, I want a boyfriend. Like, I feel like I would have that same sentiment too. But I do want to remind all of our listeners, especially the single ones, that your number one relationship is with yourself. Like, we here at How Come obviously view masturbation as one of the most important things ever. I mean, I personally still require it every day because, like, I have a boyfriend for kissing right now, but like, we don't really do a bunch of other stuff, and it's fine. But I really heavily rely on my toys, heavily rely on hanging out with my toys and myself. And so I would like to thank Sweet Vibes again. Sweet Vibes thinks masturbation is just as important as we do. They embrace the taboo of sexual wellness instead of hiding it. All of their shipping stuff is discreet, though. People have asked. It is super discreet, don't worry. And I've gotten photos as evidence. We've teamed up with Sweet Vibes for a while, and we love them. And they are offering up to 15% off all toys when you use promo code HowCome at sweetvibes.toys. Like, literally, having a loving relationship with all of your parts is a great way to maintain a positive attitude and healthy body image. It's safe, it's normal, and it has actual health benefits. Like, I am obsessed with the girl's best friend. I'll talk about the Perfect Match too, and the Tulips and the Pixie. They're all fantastic. But the girl's best friend I need to talk about first, because so many people write me every day being like, what should I use? Like, what vibrator should I use? And I'm like, not a vibrator, air pulse arouser, or clitoral suction device, whatever you want to call it. Something that sucks on the clit, not just something that buzzes. Yes, I like the things that buzz. The Perfect Match, literally, it buzzes, and it gave me my first internal orgasm. I will be forever grateful. Internal, external stim. Who couldn't want that? super flexible. Oh my God. Everything of Sweet Vibrations you can bring in the shower. People are obsessed with the Pixie. People are obsessed with the tulips. I think that's for a person who likes like a more flat vibration, if you know what I mean, like a wider surface area. But the Girl's Best Friend has a vibration setting on the tail end of it, which like you can also use as a dildo. And the suck part, it's just like the best orgasms ever. It's the newest technology. And that's my advice, you guys. But yeah, the Pixie is also really great. And everything is waterproof and rechargeable, silicone vibrators. They've got a lot of different settings. The Tulips has an ergonomic, revolutionary design and 10 very quiet and powerful settings that will pleasure you like nothing else. So go, you guys. And by go, I mean go on the internet. Get 15% off all toys at sweetvibes.toys and use promo code HowCome. That is sweetvibes.toys, promo code HowCome. Okay, back to the episode Forever and Ever. Goodbye, I love you, but also buy these things because, like, you should love yourself. You know what I mean? Okay. And also just to like piggyback on something you said before, that like it's like a continuous process and that there's never really like you're done healing, now it's time to date, or you know what I mean? Because so I have a friend who's experienced several assaults, and she had a boyfriend recently that she had to break up with because she had her PTSD come back. And he was like, I can't deal with this. You need to go heal and then we can date. Or like, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Like,
right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it can be hard. Yeah. It's.
But also if you're the type of, if you deserve to end up with like, you guys are both really, really great people. Like for somebody to end up with you, like they'd have to be a really great person. And for them to deserve you, they'd have to have like patience and time and like respect
if they want to be
for
my
you.
lover, they have to have time and patience and respect.
Yes.
I do.
You know,
I appreciate you saying that because I have this tendency, like in my last relationship, I was with a different person than the last person I discussed.
Mm-hmm.
But this person was really kind and patient with me, but then he had friends. He had a big group of guy friends that he was always with, so I was always with. And a lot of them were really not patient and would be kind of mean and say misogynistic things. And I remember our issue more became like he was such like a peacemaker, like of like trying to see both sides. And I really wanted him to defend me, which he did, but like
he couldn't do it enough.
It became kind of triggering in that it reminded me of being in these friend groups where there would be a literal rapist and people would be like, oh, we don't know what to do. Like he's and it wasn't that bad. Like it was just guys that were like, one guy like called me a bitch and another guy like would get in arguments with me about like feminism and things like that a lot, and I would just feel really sensitive about it, and then I would beat myself up because it's like, oh, this is just because of my trauma. I'm not able to work, like none of the other girls at this get together are like fighting with the guys.
Yeah, but that's not even like, yes, that has to do with your trauma, but I feel like I've dated guys where they have a friend group that like something fucked up will happen, and then I'll bring up the fact that it's fucked up, and then everybody's like, ooh, and it's like, and then you start thinking like, oh, did I make everyone uncomfortable?
Right.
And second guessing like, or was that like something that should have been called out?
Right.
You know?
And it would be like, it would be like me calling out something like, let's say someone says something slightly off or something, and I would be like, actually, you know, and then the reaction to me just be like, actually, no, would be like, you always come in here like policing us, telling us what to do, telling us what to say. And it would be like such a dialed up reaction to me being like, you know,
you could quietly be like, hi, if you maybe wanted to police your thoughts before they came out, I would have to do this.
And they literally told me like I should when I feel this way, I should be like telling my boyfriend about it in the privacy of his own room and let him bring it to them. Not, and I was like, what?
No.
So
Weird.
but I remember kind of like our relationship ended not too long after one of these big things. And he was like really specific to tell me that it was not at all to do with anything like that, and that I don't need to change anything about myself and I'm a good person, blah blah blah. But like the trauma voice inside of me is like, you're so fucked up that, you know, once again, you like can't hang out with boys. And I had to kind of talk myself out of that. So
you can't hang out with toxic boys.
Yeah.
Like there's toxic every type.
Speaking of toxic every type, I also so wait, where I am in my healing kind of thing is like I don't really well, first I haven't had a boyfriend, but I also don't really like physical contact. I haven't had like sex in a while, which like I'm a very horny person, so it's like, well, fuck. But like but it just makes me feel uncomfortable in a lot of queer spaces. Like if you go to a gay club, you just want to have a night out, like it's like
there's a lot of unwanted touching.
Your ass will be like someone will put hand down your pants or like and it's like, you know, in the queer community, it's like, oh, that's part of like the culture. You just go, you know, you're your dick and your ass grab, and like
literally, Dylan, last week or 2 weeks ago or something, we had Matthew Camp on, and he was talking about being in a gay bar, and like he like touched a go-go dancer's ass, and then the go-go dancer like sat on it, and he was basically like fisting him, and I was like, okay, but where was the consent in that conversation?
Yes, and that's kind of like. There's this kind of feeling of like, oh, like, you know, in the like gay community, like eye contact is consent. That's consent.
Eye contact. 2 seconds. Yeah.
And like, and it comes from closeted mentality of like, oh, let's fuck in the dark. It's like, you know, let's do this. And I feel like it comes from like trickle down that. And it's like, I understand like there's kind of like this other element of like sexual freedom and yes, like do what you please, but also like, you know, we gotta like, you know, normalize kind of really like verbalizing like
gay
consent.
people being people too and requiring the same consent as
exactly
like what
exactly. So I don't really go to those spaces anymore because I just like it doesn't feel like I really can't like feel without feeling like extremely triggered. But like that's something I wanted to bring up, like that is such a huge thing in like I can speak for like cis gay men, but I feel like other like the queer community too, but like that's so huge, like and when I bring it up with other gay people, sometimes they make me feel crazy, like what's wrong with you, bitch? And I'm like
be chill.
Like, oh, I'm sorry.
That you know, I was saying like how I didn't feel like I could hang out with those guys. It literally happened with a group of gay guys in college I was hanging out with who like would always try, they would always like think like they can like motorboat me or like grab my boobs. And one time I just like screamed out like, you can't touch, like I was like freshly like traumatized. And I was going to hang out with these guys to be in a safe space, like just hanging out at their house, and I felt so unsafe that I just screamed and I like didn't come back. And it was like one of those things where like, great, I would blame myself. And now I kind of am like, no, it's like good to have boundaries.
I made a joke that actually straight bars are my new safe space. That's where I feel fully like I can be safe. An Irish pub. I don't know.
That's amazing. And you guys, no pressure, but if you're comfortable, would you mind sharing your story with us?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. It was there were a few different scenarios. I won't get too much into the details, but I was assaulted by my high school boyfriend, and then again by a friend of a friend in college at a party, and then again by a neighbor who was like in my friend group in Brooklyn, and I guess what they all had in common is that they were acquaintances. They were acquaintances or friends, people I knew. They were people I wanted to have sex with. They were people I wanted to hook up with, who I had a crush on. And they all were very entitled to the speed at which this happened. And they felt like, because I liked them, that once I established that, once we were alone together, that that was it. And you know, they all had that say they all said similar phrases. I attracted to a similar predator each time, of them kind of the phrases of like, I already put the condom on, so you can't change your mind now. Like, you know, we are, you know, I already like drove all the way here, or you know, you didn't take, I didn't take your clothes off myself. Like, kind of this entitlement of like, we're here alone. And I'm like, maybe I just wanted to make.
You said the one time yes, so now everything is yes, which is like, it's not that binary. You have to keep checking in.
It's like, just because I want to make out with you at this party doesn't mean that I also want to have sex with you immediately. And that was like the commonality, which is what made it very confusing, and is probably why it took me years to really accept it, because I think the most confusing thing is that my response to danger, I've learned over the years, is to freeze up and to like go silent and like feel like I really can't move, and just kind of be like, just play dead until it's over. And that makes me feel like, you know, when people talk about, when I would hear friends describe their situations and say like, I fought as hard as I could, and you know, I screamed, and he had a knife or whatever, and I would almost feel this jealousy that like mine wasn't this black and white situation, because I was like, man, I didn't even do that. Like, mine probably doesn't even count, because I just like let this person. But it's like, no, I didn't. I said no, and that should have been enough. You know, I cried, and that should have been enough. And I was clearly upset and saying no, and that's like enough. And these guys were entitled motherfuckers who like listened to Sublime well after college.
What are you touching, Kelly? Stop.
And I'm touching my chicken wrap. These are all
ASMR.
All of these men. They all had a lot of things in common. They were all white boys who own a drug rug and wear it as an outfit, just to give an image. These are all like, they have rich parents who are not proud of them.
Right.
I want to be mean to them, but really they were people who I loved and liked, and it's very hard, because those feelings don't go away. Like the
fuck yeah.
So that's it.
Gabrielle wants to jump in.
You mentioned freezing up, and like, I think people should know, like, that's actually one of the most common responses to sexual trauma. It's called tonic immobility. And what happens is your brain starts releasing hormones to desensitize you. So it literally makes your body less sensitive. The brain dissociates, and it's your body's way of protecting yourself. Because if you're not there, quote unquote, then you don't remember it, it's less traumatic. And then slowly afterwards, certain things can trigger you, and those pieces of those memories start to come back. So I just wanted to say, you know, you're totally valid in that, and that's totally a valid response, and it doesn't make it okay. But people should definitely know that freezing up and not being able to say anything or not being able to fight back is a very natural response.
Like they say, fight or flight. Sometimes the flight is like in your brain.
Thank you for that. And there's another reaction that I learned about recently through a friend who's going through this as well, which is to fawn. And when you fawn, it's similar to the freeze, but you might actually do it with a smile on your face.
That was my big issue. That was my response.
It's like almost like people pleasing. Like my dog literally does it because she's a very cute tiny dog, and if a big dog comes up, she's like, I'm super cute, but she's terrified. And I kind of have felt that in myself when I've been approached by these guys, and they all the red flags are going off in my head. I'm like, this is not a good guy. Don't get in the car. And what I do is I make a joke, because every single time something happened to me, I'm like doing this, what I think is this fawning thing, where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get into the rape fan. Like I'm like making these little jokes, like, what is this, your rape dungeon? Like, please don't.
No.
But like I'm like walking in and seeing all the signs and being like, I wish you wouldn't.
Yeah, you gotta listen to those little voices sometimes.
But it's like I am listening, but I'm doing this survival response, which is to like try to be charming.
Yeah.
Totally. I feel like I had
and
the
that's
same
also
thing.
a valid response, even though it can make you like, I felt like such an asshole when I told people about acting that way. But like I was trying to survive. This guy's bigger than me. I'm already alone with him, you know. So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Because I think it's really important for people to hear.
Yeah, I've heard even that people like get very aroused while they're being assaulted or raped, and then that they can feel super guilty because they're like, well, my body was wanting it, like I must have been.
That's something that really, that's exactly what I experienced when it happened to me, and because that's how I felt. So I guess going in, mine happened in college, and the guy I didn't know. And what was confusing was at first I did feel that arousal and that desire. And then afterwards, like, it was like I not really getting into detail though, it was like afterwards I could still feel like this, like feeling aroused but also dissociated. And literally after the fact, I was like, I remember I took a shower and I looked at myself and I didn't like, I was like, I literally was like, that was some like, what, that was like weird experience, whatever, I'll just keep going on with my life. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I was fully shaking. And I'm like, whoa, like what's going on? Like what, I look like that guy looks like he just went through something kind of fucked up. And then I remember trying to leave. You know the show I May Destroy You?
Yeah.
Or like there's like this thing, it was so clear, it was like the guy trying to pull me back and trying to do everything he can to like, and I was like trying to grab my backpack and just get the fuck out of it. And I was like, it's like, I'm sorry, I have to go, and like fawning, like kind of like so. And like I walked away from that experience literally like, oh my God, I'm crazy. I'm like a slut. Like I'm like a fucking crazy wild child. I'm gonna tell my friends about this experience. But it wasn't until literally a year later, like, oh, that was rape. Like that was, like I was a, and
I remember having that feeling of like literally telling my friend the next day, like, who was in my apartment, like she slept in my bed and it happened like outside my apartment. So I like got into bed with her right after it happened. And she was like, did you fuck that guy? And I was like, yeah. And I like, next day we were laughing about it. I had bruises all over me. And she's like, oh my God, you had rough sex. And I'm like, yeah. We were just like laughing about it all day. And it took, and I literally, for like weeks, you know, I didn't fully understand. I was just like, this is fucked up. But there was literally, it was so strange because that night, literally, I had friends sleeping in my living room that were in the military, like guys that are huge who could protect me. My friend was sleeping in my bed. It seemed like nothing, like I remember like getting in this like van and they were kind of like, I wasn't afraid because I knew that I was safe in my apartment. But literally like right outside my apartment door happened, and it took me weeks of like my friends kept laughing about how there was this condom in the stairwell of our apartment, like, ew, who had sex in the stairwell? And I was like, yeah, who did that? And then like finally, like literally a month later, I just saw it and I just picked it up and threw it out. I was like, oh, this is mine, you know. And it kind of it was like the surreal thing of, because it did feel like it felt like these are guys that I know, and they would literally they would text me, or they would say goodbye to me and like, we're gonna try this again tomorrow, okay, Kel, like I like you, all right? And I'm like, okay, thanks, and like go my own way. And then the next day they message me and I'm like, wait, no, this wasn't cool, like I don't know what it is, you know. So it was this confusing thing, and I think it was in warning someone else that I realized how serious it was to me. Like I was like
Yeah.
warning a friend who was just starting school, and I was like, hey, don't go to this part, don't go to that
Mhm.
place. Like it's really fucked up. And I just started like crying because I was like, oh, I'm like trying to protect her
Mhm.
from my experience,
I can't imagine like realizing. I mean, I can't imagine because like I've realized some stuff wasn't as cool as I thought it was when I was younger. But like when you do realize after such a long time, it's like, what do you do with that?
Right.
Because that person's still out there. That
Right.
person, maybe you didn't tell them afterwards that that wasn't consensual, and maybe
Right.
like you're the reason why they're still doing other stuff, or like if it was something like that you want to report, now there's the time is past due.
Right. Well,
Totally.
it's hard because I feel like it took me a while to accept, like with the third case, the Brooklyn friend. I remember I was thinking it, which is what I think every time, like this was a miscommunication. This guy's not usually doing this, But then I remember everything when I really think back, when I like do EMDR or whatever it is and like really replay, I know exactly who that person was. Like I literally have a memory of that Brooklyn guy telling me that over Christmas break, because it was right after Christmas break, and he was like, oh, I got accused of raping this girl. He told me that he was accused of rape while he went home, and he was telling it to me like a joke. And when I told all of his friends what happened, they were like, oh, why did you go home with him? Like, he's like this animalistic guy. Like, they all knew exactly what kind of person he was.
Oh my God.
And that was the commonality with the guy before, too. It's just like, oh, he's such an animal when he likes a girl. They all have this knowledge about him, and they're just like used to it.
Animals will be animals. And
Yeah,
it's
like,
no.
We all know when he likes a woman, he hunts her. Like that's normal.
Fucking weird.
And
why is he in your friend group? Why is that okay?
And with my high school boyfriend, it was like he was known for kind of privately having this explosive temper, and people were kind of afraid of him. Like, and it not like afraid of him, but people who really knew him, I think, knew he could get like out there.
Kelly and I were talking. There's like an energy, and I sensed it from this guy too. It's like a predatory, like hunted kind. I don't know. Maybe not for all, but like there's kind of like a through line of like I don't know. That's what I sense from that.
They also like talking about. I get like I've never realized this, but so there was a Fox News anchor who attempted to assault me in my apartment a few years ago, and I had him smoke weed because I am really nice and generous, but before he like started hitting on me, and then I like rejected it, and I was just like, shut this the fuck down, like you're here, you said to work, like you're making me really uncomfortable or whatever. And then he like I guess had gotten really high and then started admitting to me that he was like, I've been accused of rape before. I've like several times, and then was like crying about it to me. And I was like, okay, so now I have to like hold space for you when like if I was a person who might have given in to you, like you could be doing this to me right now.
Right.
Oh my God.
And it was fucking scary, and it got to the point that he put me on the phone with his lawyer to say that he had done nothing, because technically he had done you know what I mean? Like,
but he had done something.
But he had.
Yeah.
He had.
Like, just even being like, the exact line was, oh, Remy, does weed make you horny? Because it's making me horny. And I said, shut it down, because like that's making me disgusted and really scared.
Right. Well, I think, it's clear the way he's talking about it afterward that he knows, he knows he's crossed the line. And that, like, I think the third guy who raped me, he is the only one that I really talked to afterward. Like, and it was because actually he got in a fight with one of our friends because his friend basically told me that what happened was wrong and said, validated me by saying he like acts a certain way when he's on drugs and he's like fucked up and that was wrong. And I quoted the friend as saying that to him. And he like then got in a big fight with a friend and the friend lied and said he never said that, blah, blah, blah. So we were like talking about that. And I remember he just sort of was like, I think I was being really generous and also was not quite aware what was happening yet. And I said, like, I think what happened is that I got really re-traumatized because I've been raped before and I was triggered by you. And he was like, well, I think what you should do is just like, he's like, I'm a psychology major. Like, you should just like forget about it.
Kelly, stop touching.
Sorry. He was like, you should just like forget about it and just like, put a shit down. I was like, that's what you learned as a psychology major?
To repress?
And like, that is when I realized something about him, which is that he's not a normal person. Because if I had someone tell me that they're re-traumatized by me and triggered by me doing something sexually, I would feel so like upset and I would want to make it right and I would want to hear about it. And that kind of was a light bulb for me because I realized all of these times this happened, how I would have handled it if it were truly a miscommunication.
Yes.
Like how I would have acted, how I would have reached out to them and tried to take care of them and tried to like apologize and figure out what I did wrong. And in all these cases, like my high school boyfriend, I accused him of rape the day after and he admitted it first and threatened to kill himself and said, he was like, I'm a monster, I should die. And I was like, no, of course, a kid with their boyfriend saying this was like, no, you shouldn't. I love you. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't mean it. You didn't do anything. Like you're a good guy. And then as soon as he had that from me, it was like he had never said that. Like he dropped. And anytime
it was a tactic.
Once I like said it wasn't rape, after that, our whole relationship, if I brought it up, he was like,
no, it wasn't.
You know it wasn't. You know it wasn't. You lie. Make sure that like. And I realized like his reaction was not a normal person's. That's not how I. So I like whenever I feel like shame or doubt, I try to just remember what I would do in these scenarios, like how I would treat me, how I would treat a person that I was having a sexual experience with, and if someone that I hurt.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I no longer feel like, I used to really worry about the two of them that are aware. Like one of them has no idea. I don't even know I think he moved to Alaska or something. But the other two, I used to be like, oh, they must feel terrible. But now I don't even think they feel terrible.
So.
Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I've been literally, my rapist was like a stranger. Also, I think he was from England, so it's like the English accent like kind of triggers me. So I can't do like Downton Abbey. I'm like, no thanks. But like I've like literally thought about kind of their different parts. Like there's one side of me that's like that, like what he did, unforgivable. Fuck him. Fuck this guy forever. Like I'm like, could stand it. And there's another side that's like his humanity. He's a person. He's probably not all. And then like there are these two that it's like a side that's willing to forgive. But then this other side is like, if you forgive, then it's like you're forgiving. Like then it's like then it's as though nothing happened to you and you're diminishing. So I find myself kind of like in conflict.
Yeah.
These two like kind of sides, but.
I feel like it sounds like rapists go after empaths because they know that they're going to be treated with care.
Right. Well, I used to feel like I used to think that rapists attract, like when I used to kind of beat myself up about it, I was like, oh, I must seem like this weak, like very,
I don't think that's
like,
what it is.
I must seem like this weak, vulnerable person who, should be attacked. And then I realized, like, I think it's like, might be the literal opposite. I think it's the same thing that makes people which is I think why I get triggered by those groups of guys that like my ex-boyfriend is friends with, because not because I think they're rapists, which is I think why they get angry at me because they think I think they're rapists, but like I don't. But when they would fight with me, I felt like, why are you fighting with me? Like, and I realized there's like a threat that comes with being like, actually, when you are, I'm an independent, strong person.
Yeah.
And someone sees that and they're like, I want to be more powerful than that. I want to put that down. I want to feel strong. I want to feel like, you know, she belongs to me in this moment. Like, and put her down. And so I'll get triggered even just by someone arguing with me in a certain way. And I think it comes from this power dynamic of like someone feeling threatened by just that I'm walking around like feeling happy that day. Like that's kind of how it feels. Cause it's like, I'm out here, you know, being like,
a survivor, showing you that you can do that to somebody and that they don't just go away and die. They like have a voice and they talk about it after. So like when, and this is for both of you, when you are feeling triggered or you are feeling PTSD, like how do you deal with that? Like how do you reduce that?
Something like, I think my kind of coping, I don't know if it's healthy or not, but it helps. I like I'm a kind of workaholic, so I like, you know, or just diving into kind of work or doing something else, or like comedy has literally helped me so to be able to like channel that kind of energy and conflict within you into like a song about it or joke like that was
art.
Like art or like that seriously like helped me so much. Talking like calling Kelly or talking to my brother, seeing like talking to another human face.
Yeah,
I guess helps me listening to music.
Yeah.
I'm still working on how to deal with it every day and every week now that I'm in therapy finally. But I find a lot of it is I'm a very like cerebral person, so my mind is kind of there in that I know how I feel about these. I know how I think about these things. I've thought through them a million times. I've journaled through them a million times. And I used to think that was the way I wanted to deal with it. Like, oh, let me just journal 10 pages until I like remind myself that I am not crazy. And that would be like that. And I realize for me, it's most important to like accept that my brain is thinking what it's thinking and focus on my body and getting my body back into the moment of like, my body doesn't know that it's safe. My central nervous system has been activated. Like right now, my hands are shaking because I'm talking about this.
Right.
So I'm like putting my hands on the table, pushing down as hard as I can to remind my hands that they are actually here. And I'm gonna, after this is over, splash cold water on my face to just shock myself back a little bit.
I'm sorry for doing this to you.
No, it's okay. No, I don't mean to. But another thing is like I put my hand on my heart and I will just breathe while like trying to move my other hand as slowly as I can, just to like make myself focus on breathing without really thinking about it. And I'll back up against a chair as hard as I can, or just do like what are those called, where you like sit against a wall and like sit without
wall
sitting
sit?
in a chair. Wall sit.
Yeah.
There's like
a little pressure
things
on the back.
of just like
grounding your body in the present is so, and looking
that's
around.
really big for me because
Totally.
I used to like just kind of let my mind, I mean I still do, I let my mind wander and I love to journal. And so I can fill up a whole journal in one day if I let myself. And I just find that getting myself into the present and it could be through calling a friend, or maybe I'll make some tea and put on like some soft music that doesn't remind me of something terrible. And I'll just like I feel like it's sort of taking it easy on yourself, because you have the trauma lives somewhere in your body. It lives like, I don't know if you've ever had a virus like herpes or something, how it lives in your body, like in your spine, like viruses do. And like trauma lives places too. It like lives here. It might live in, for me, it's like there's something right here. And
for me, it's lower back tension.
Yeah.
And stretching
it
helps
wants
too.
out. Like it wants to get out. And there's like, you can kind of, there are ways to kind of get in the habit of, I think, kind of pushing it out, like exercising or like, or letting it kind of do what it wants to do with the supervision of a therapist is what
Yeah, I was gonna
I
say
like.
try a bunch of stuff, but like go to therapy too
Like
to make
my
sure
my
it's
therapist
Yeah.
will like, she'll like let me, she'll be like, what do you feel? And I'll say like, I feel like this rock in my back. And she'll be like,
Mhm.
okay, what does that look like? What does it feel like? Does it have a color? We'll kind of
Mhm.
let it do what it wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of realize how physical it is, because just for me, just like being aware of how physical it is has been very validating for me, because it's not something I have physical scars from, but
Yeah.
it's always there. So when I feel it physically, like, oh, I'm shaking because of this is like a sign from my body, like this is something, this is a real uh this is a real, scar, or like this is a real wound,
Mm-hmm.
an illness, or whatever you want to call it, but like it's there, and
Mm-hmm.
I deserve to kind of take it easy on myself and think, you know what, like last fall was pretty hard, like that was pretty re-traumatizing to be in the
Yeah.
news, like it's
Yeah.
okay to like need a break
Mm-hmm.
and to like
Totally.
it's okay to like not feel like engaging with like comedians on Twitter who like I think I'm afraid are going to be mean or something. Like it's okay to feel sensitive.
100%.
Also, something to remember: there is something about the anniversary of the trauma, like because this is
Sure.
around the same time of
Right.
year it happens. So
Right.
when that time comes, you tend to be like a little more, at least me, like
Me too.
on
I
edge,
feel
and the
like
trauma's more on the
you're
surface.
traumatized by like an entire neighborhood. Like I know you have that joke
Yes.
about the
Right.
Lower East
I
Side.
have a joke
and,
about
yeah.
like walking in the Lower East Side, and I don't remember where,
Right.
like which hotel I was raped in, but when I'm in the neighborhood, I'm like, I'm like,
Yeah.
Essex, Delancey, I don't know. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I literally last weekend Dylan came over, we watched Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I just like started
Amazing.
crying, and I didn't know why. And I realized I was getting triggered by the movie, and I don't know whether it's because I was
No.
like assaulted around Halloween and I like this movie was on, or like is it because the movie itself has like themes that are
Mm,
difficult for me in terms of like there's some kind of sexual assault happening kind of as a joke in the movie.
there is
And
with
I
Janet
just
and Brad.
Yeah.
I used to
yes.
think it was okay, and it's so not.
and I was
Yeah.
like just got
I used
so
to think it was like so horny by that scene. Like,
It's like a myth.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's
confusing because
very
it gets you
confusing.
horny, and it's
for me
yeah.
it did not
Yeah.
get me horny. I fully shut down during that
Yeah.
scene, and then I just sort of was like, oh, but the bright side is that I'm here with Dylan, who I feel safe with, and he knows what to do, like he knows to turn off the movie.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because sometimes you'll be with someone like I've been with like boyfriends or whoever, and they
He'll
put
make
on
you explain it in the
they
moment.
put on like the film that's upsetting to me, and they like
Yeah.
they get defensive that I want to turn it off, and they
Yep.
like they want me to explain it, but then they don't really want to comfort me about it. They just
That's
kind
what
of
happened
like
to my friend.
move
And she had to
on.
break up with that guy because she was like, I'm not going to like have a traumatic experience and then explain why it's traumatic and like
Right.
lead you through helping me.
Right. And I
Totally.
remember my ex-boyfriend, which he meant well, but he would like always say things like, you're upsetting yourself, you're getting yourself worked up, stop it,
Mhm.
like calm down, like, or he would allow me to be upset for a couple hours. But if I
Mhm.
was still upset at nighttime when it's time for us to like go out and have fun, and I'm like still upset, he's like, why aren't you better by now? Like you're getting yourself worked up.
Yeah.
And really,
And-
I need a little like
Coddling.
tenderness.
Yeah. And honestly, I do think people have to get accustomed to coddling someone. Like I know, like I'm like a depressed person, right? So like I had to teach Ben how to deal with depressed me, and he's gotten better at it. But some people just won't learn. And those people, like you can't make exceptions for them.
You
Like they
can't-
just
yeah.
kind of have
Right.
to go.
Kind of let them go.
Right.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I have this tendency, and I don't know if it comes from like how I was raised or what, but like the tendency to kind of blame myself for feeling mentally unwell. Like I'm like, oh, this is ruining the relationship. How I feel is such a burden. And now I'm kind of
I don't deserve to be with a good person.
like,
Oh yeah, that thought.
I'm trying to teach myself to like, there are people out there that are secure and patient and who know what to say or can be like, are open to hearing, that they could say something differently next time, whatever.
I was going to ask to both of you, and I know, Dylan, you said you haven't really slept with anyone in a while. How does your trauma affect your sex life currently, and how do you work on that, either with other people or alone?
Yeah, for me right now, I'm just basically like masturbating like crazy.
Great.
No sex, but I have like kind of had sexual experiences after the trauma that were like pretty positive, and like I've like people I still talk to and like we hang out and whatever. But then I think like there were just some other like experiences I had after that like kind of like re-traumatized me, and then like I'd have another one. It's like, oh, this is traumatizing too, and it's like then like it's like, oh, it like now like touching is kind of traumatizing. Oh, like now like being in like proximity with someone is, so it's like it kind of closed in on me a little bit. But I feel like I am willing. I'm not like, I do still want to have sex because I know it can be positive, and like touch is like such a healing thing, and like
but even self-touch, like some people can't even get there for a while. So I think even like being like, wow, like I can love myself up and feel comfortable, and that is like such a triumph.
I'm like amazing at that. Like
that's awesome.
I mean, that's big, because I feel like that's like enjoying like self-touch is probably the thing that took the longest for me. Like and actually it was only like during quarantine I figured out, which I only did like once, but I like had one orgasm by myself, and I was like, yeah,
congratulations.
How come?
But it was like, and it was at the time I was like, my ex-boyfriend and I were like broken up, but he was talking to me like on the phone, and he was kind of coaching me through what to do.
Ooh,
like,
that's hot.
I figured
it's really hot.
I love that.
And then I figured it out, and like we were both like proud.
I'm proud.
But as far as
high five through the phone.
High five through the
phone. I'll see you later on.
But other than that, I mean, I think for a while, like in college, especially, I didn't have a boyfriend, or I wasn't dating anyone, and I would just like randomly hook up with someone and not really enjoy it. But like best case scenario, it would be okay. And then I remember one like really kind of life-changing weekend was that there was this guy who I met on spring break, and I met him like I drove back from Miami to North Carolina, and I like stopped in Savannah, and he went to SCAD, and I just like met him at the St. Patrick's Day parade, and we were just like flirting all night, and it was very like cute, and he was really gentlemanly, and I slept at his house, but he like didn't try anything, and
cute.
I'm pretty sure he was like sleeping with someone else in the other room. I don't really care. Whatever. I don't know.
He's busy. Like
No, but I think he kind of like I kind of think he like tried with me, but he tried with me, but he wasn't like gonna push it, and then I think he maybe called someone. Doesn't matter.
He went on Grindr.
It's not the point. It's not the point. But it was kind of. I remember I was feeling really.
I mean, that's way nicer than like making you do it. It's just being like, I'm gonna call someone else.
I was like, oh man, I was like, I really liked that guy. He was so cute. And then we kept texting.
You're just having a beautiful private moment to yourself while like he's fully fucking someone else in the room. Like, oh, this is healing.
Okay, I was like, me and my friend, we're both sleeping in the living room. It was fine. I didn't hear what he was doing there. I don't know, but maybe he didn't. But for weeks we were like messaging, And we just had this like nice little cute little flirtation going. And I hadn't really had that with someone I could remember really. So he invited me to come back to Savannah for a weekend, and me and my friend drove back. And the whole weekend, he was just being so sweet and like taking us all over town and like cooking for us. And I was at the time so like newly traumatized. I was so reluctant, and he was like this nice guy who wasn't pushing it. And I kept being like, oh, I want to sleep with him. Why isn't he trying? And it was because I was so used to like sleeping only with these guys that would just kind of
who insisted upon
like they would like bulldoze through my reluctance, and and then it wouldn't be fun, and they would be like asshole type guys usually. So he was being so gentle that it wasn't until, and just like picking up, I wasn't making eye contact with him. Like, what was he supposed to do? And then finally, like on the last night we were there, I like said to him, like, it's like, are we gonna like have sex? And he was like, what? He's like, I didn't know you wanted to do that, Kelly. Like, I'm just like trying to help you have a good time. Like, it's fine if you don't want to do that. And I was like, no, I do. And then we did, and it was like, it was really nice because I had never really had an experience with just, and it wasn't like amazing or anything, but I had never had like,
but it was on your terms.
Yeah. And then when I did Rape Jokes by Survivors, and I looked at the pictures afterward, him and his girlfriend were in the audience. And it was so,
Stop!
Like, he was there.
Is
That's
he single?
so cute.
Oh my god, that is so
Because he texted me that night and was like, he like texted me like an inside joke from that weekend. Like, it was like, you deserve like all the like Popeyes of the world or something, from some joke from like our weekend. But I was like, why is he saying this tonight? Does he know about the show? But he was literally there, and it was so nice. And it was kind of the beginning where then I was able to have another good sexual relationship with my like first real boyfriend. And I think in my last relationship, the big struggle was we had a really good sexual relationship, but it was very difficult. I feel like he was like walking on eggshells with me. Like, he knows about my trauma, and he like is this really sex positive person who's like into S&M and like choking and stuff. And he like was afraid. And I was like, you can ask me like whatever you want to do. I'm into stuff. And he wouldn't ask me because he thought he would be like that putting me through something that I didn't want to do. And I was really too shy to initiate it. But I would try to be like, I'm up, you just ask me to do whatever. And I remember like our last night together, we were talking about that. Like, I was like, whatever you want to do different stuff, like just tell me. And he was like, well, you already know what I want to do, so why don't you initiate it? And then I was like being very shy, like, would you like me to? And he's like, see, you don't really want to, you know. You're
like, I do. I just don't know how to say it.
I don't know how to communicate.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. That's an S&M conversation too, because like that, but there needs to be S&M conversations, because sometimes those are the safest relationships, because you're literally talking about what's okay every step of the way.
Right.
There's a safe word. People respect it. You know what I mean? And also, I just think this is like, it brings us full circle that if he's like, oh, I wouldn't think you'd want to do this. No, survivors are horny too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Really horny.
They're so horny.
And I'm actually very open-minded, and I would love to try things. I just need it to be vocalized. And he would tell me like, oh, I'm so used to like, because he was used to like, I guess, hooking up with more random people. And he's like, normally people who are into that, they just go for it, and it's like a vibe, and we're like, we're getting like, someone will just start, I'm like, I can't just start choking you, I can't do that. Like, you have to like tell me, you know.
Totally.
Dylan, I just have a question, because I know that you're amazing at masturbating. Have you always been that way? And do you remember the first time you came?
Oh my god, yes. So I guess this is extremely young, but I guess I like California. We have our family has a hot tub.
What are you about to say? Oh, okay.
And,
California, my family.
California, my family.
You know California. You know the kids there. Just, you know.
Yes.
It's like OC, but like
Chino.
we the first time I like remember putting like my genitals on the like jet
jet?
of the jacuzzi, and I'm like,
How old
oh
were
my
you?
God. I was 3.
Oh, cute.
Isn't
oh my
this
God.
sorry? Literally, I was like, oh my, ew, this feels wonderful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like, and I remember literally thinking, that's how it sounded. I remember literally thinking about my cousin, or me and my cousin, like that nothing happened, but I remember thinking he was so hot, and I guess that's what happened. And
Unreal.
And like every time I went to the jacuzzi as a kid, I would like as a 3 or 4-year-old, I would just like go to the jet, and people would be like, "What's Dylan?" Like no one would really question it, but I'd just be like there, like silent for like 5 minutes, just like there, and then like I even remember like one of my family friends was like, "Dylan, are you putting your penis on the jet?" I was like, "No." So. Yeah, I was, and then like ever since then, like I just did it. I was like such a little like crazy horny kid. Like
I was similar to that with like dry humping the TV remote.
The remote.
I would be watching cartoons after school, and I would just like, one time I accidentally laid on the remote, and like it felt good, and I was
the
like,
button touched my
I was
button.
like, what if I kept doing that? And I would just be doing that, and like my family must have just been sitting right there. And I remember like one time my dad was just like pointed out that I was really clammy. Like he was like, "Why are you so clammy?" He's like, "Are you sick?" And I was like, "Yes."
Dylan's all like pruny from spending too many hours in the hot tub. Kelly's like lost all of her color.
Yeah. Like you were just crazy, just horny. Kid.
Just so fucking horny.
I was just like watching SpongeBob after school and just like dry humping stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Patrick Star, he really does it for me too.
It really took me a long time.
I love a dummy. Yeah. I love a dummy.
Love a dummy.
It took me a long time to realize what I was doing though, and that I should not want to do that
with
public.
Your family. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
You guys, this has been so fun, but I've literally kept you for like almost 2 hours now. So I'm gonna wrap up by just telling everybody, you guys, listen or watch their new music video, Tell Me I'm Hot and Don't Fucking Fuck Me. Don't fucking
fuck me.
Fuck me.
Tell Me I'm Hot and Don't Fucking Touch Me. It ends with Don't Look at Us Like That, but also Do.
Bitch.
Do, bitch.
And we have actually 3 live stream shows of our show, Rape Victims Are Horny 2, coming up in November.
Okay, so where can everybody find you guys online? Kelly first.
If you go to, I think, the links in either one of our Instagram bios, you'll find our Eventbrite link to our show.
What is your Instagram, Kelly? And
I'm at Kelly Bachman on Instagram, or Belly Kaufman on Twitter.
Oh, nice. And Dylan?
And I'm at Dylan Adler _ on Instagram and at Dylan Adler 6 on Twitter. And in the Instagram bio is the link to the Eventbrite.
Yes, follow them. And also, can we end with what you guys say at the end of your show first before we end with what we say at the end of mine? Okay.
Either when.
We believe you.
And
we believe you.
And it's not, your fault.
Yes. And then I just have to ask this to everybody after a sexual experience, which this has been. Dylan, did you finish?
I finished. I truly did.
Okay, amazing. Kelly, did you finish?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for coming, you guys.
Thanks for having us.
It was nice to meet you, Dylan and Kelly. Thank you so much for being
It was
so
nice meeting.
It was.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for chiming in when you did. That was very helpful for me to hear personally. So I'm sure.
Yeah, my research is on sexual trauma and treatment methods. So
Gabrielle does free 15-minute consulting sessions for you. So find them through their website. Gabrielle, will you tell us that location again?
Yeah, nefeshwellness.com. NEFESH wellness.com.
Perfect. Okay. Love you all. Have a great rest of day.
Thanks for having us.
And we'll see you next time on How Come. Goodbye.
Bye.
We're victims, bitch.
Rape victims are horny too. Cunt.
Don't fucking touch us.
Slut. I want you to take me home. I will cry after we bone. May not even explain why. Can we fuck again after I cry?
When I show up in the club, I wanna kiss and that's it. Haven't fucked in 2 years, boys, I'm really tight. If you touch my butt, I will end your life.
One time I went to a sex party. I could not touch anybody.
I am triggered as I sing. Gonna go to the bathroom and listen to Enya. Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. I'm scared and horny. Tell me I'm hot. Why don't you love me?
We can kiss, but I need a shower. We can kiss, but I need a shower. Talk about my trauma for an hour. I promise that I can come. First we need to date 6 months.
My body screams, don't kiss that man. I ignore cause I'm horny, I need validation. But I still know that I'm sexy. But I think I'm ugly if you don't text me, Brian.
Don't touch me, wait, no, homie.
Don't talk to me, ask me how I'm feeling.
This night reminds me of something else.
If I'm catatonic, call for help.
He's catatonic.
Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. I'm scared and horny. Tell me I'm hot, why don't you love me? Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. Tell me I'm hot and don't fucking touch me. I'm scared and horny. Tell me I'm hot, why don't you love me?
Don't look at us like that,
But also, do,
bitch.
That was great.
That was really good.
That was fun.